Good Tuesday morning. My name is Jerry Miller. Welcome to Real Talk. This is an insider's guide to real estate, life, and the pursuit of happiness, powered by the Yes Team Realtors. Guys, we are live in Charlottesville, the Commonwealth, the country, and the world, and we have a phenomenal show lined up for you. Dr. Paul Harris will join us in about 3 minutes on the program. This guy, just an influencer in our community. We're very lucky to have Dr. Paul Harris here in Charlottesville. We have Donna Patton at the bottom of the show, and Donna Patton is just a fantastic broker and one of the big-time players in real estate here in Charlottesville and Central Virginia. We're excited to welcome Donna. This show, thanks to many sponsors, undoubtedly thanks to the Yes Team. If you're looking for a trusted advisor in real estate, Keith and Yonna Smith of the Yes Team Realtors. Judah Wickhauer is our director. Why don't we go to the studio camera and let's welcome the star of the show, the distinguished gentleman, to the set. My friend, hello.
Good morning. We got a little bit of extra mustache. I've kind of had an artisan friend of mine.
You look good.
I'm trying. I'm excited about this show. Paul is a dear personal friend, a pastor at the church that we attend, a professor at the university, and we're going to kind of continue this conversation about, just listening to one another, learning from one another, and then trying to work with others just to make this a better world. And I couldn't think of anybody better than Paul to kind of get us going and keep us going in the right direction.
Well said. We're excited for Paul Harris, excited for Donna Patton.
Yeah, so Donna is a rock star. I asked Donna to come on to talk about fair housing, and she teaches it for us at the Association of Realtors, and I'm excited to hear what she has to say. I've always enjoyed her classes when she taught it, and she's going to make it approachable and understandable. So I thought these would tie together pretty good, and at some point I'd love to talk about what and maybe we can work it into a few of the conversations, what the U.S. Supreme Court has done for LGBTQ community and how it infects us as realtors. And we had this joke before. We're trying to do better, Donna, on the realtor thing, but
Realtor, Donna. Realtor.
It's a Yankee thing. I can't help it. The mask is not helping much.
Donna Patton, we're excited for you. Stephanie Rhodes, thank you for liking and sharing the show. Interstate Pest and Service Companies, certainly part of this network and certainly a part of this show. Why don't we give them some love as I get Paul Harris on the line, Keith Smith.
Yeah, so the same was with every one of our sponsors. Thank you, and thank you. We're going to talk a little bit about the market on the very close out of the show, and one of the things that Interstate can do for you, amongst many, many things, is help you get your house ready for the market. So we'll talk a little bit about that on the back end of the show.
I'm excited. So Judah Wickhauer, I have Paul Harris on the line. Give me a thumbs up when we can welcome the good doctor to the show. Paul Harris, I miss seeing this gentleman around ACAC undoubtedly. Judah is giving me the thumbs up now. He's got a sweet background right here. Paul Harris, you are live for Charlottesville, the Commonwealth, the country, and the world. Your second rodeo on the I Love CVille Network. Thank you for joining us. Introduce yourself to the viewing public. Who's Paul Harris? What is he all about?
Well, first, thanks for even having me back. It means I didn't mess up too much the first time. And I miss seeing you guys. I tell you what, I have Chris Collins on YouTube almost every day, but it's not the same as having my crew. So hopefully we can get back to that soon. So to those who I haven't had the pleasure of meeting in person, I'm Paul Harris. I am the very privileged husband of Taylor Harris, my amazing wife, who's a phenomenal writer and woman overall. Actually, quick plug, Memoir Monday was yesterday. Her latest piece was highlighted there. It's a big deal. It's called Whiteness Can't Save Us. It's published in the Catapult. You can find it on my Twitter handle, Paul Harris 917. So privileged to be married to her. I married up big time, even though she's 5'2" and I'm 5'9". I'm definitely married up. And we've got 3 amazing kids that we're just blessed with, Jerry. And so when I'm not with them, I'm faculty in the School of Education at UVA, or serving as pastor of Victory Church of Charlottesville, or if I'm lucky, I get to recreate some good old days on the basketball court, though not much of that recently. So that's a little bit about who I am.
I love it.
Hey, Paul, how's it going, man? Like the stash, huh? Trying to get good looking like you. I got a little way to go. So it's funny, before you even said it, I put a note down. We both married up big time.
Me too. We outkicked our coverage is what it's called. We outkicked our coverage.
We outkicked our coverage.
The coverage. I like that.
So how you doing, man? I haven't seen you in forever. You know, we're just catching up in front of 253,000 people. I miss seeing you, man.
Yeah, just in the living room, my closest friends. How am I doing? As good as can be expected, right? With all that's going on in the world, just trying to navigate it well and be an agent of positive change.
So that's what we want to talk about, positive change, right? We don't want to go negative. We want to go, how can we make this better? And, the basic three things we've been talking about in the last couple of weeks is, listen to one another, learn from one another, and then go out and spread the word, right? Pretty much what you do as a pastor, we should be doing as every person every day. And I just would love to throw that to you and let that beautiful brain and those articulate words that you've got in you just come out and let it go. So I'm listening. I want to listen.
I'll tell you what you guys do every day with the guests you have and covering different topics is in many ways a model for what all of us can be doing with whatever talent we've been given, right? And so I appreciate you guys for just creating the space and being intentional about using what you got to make our community better. So that's really all I've tried to do and continue to try to do is use the talents given to me by God to hopefully make those in my sphere of influence better. In this season, it's been. I mean, when have we had a pandemic like this, right? Like this is new for all of us. So we're figuring out what in the world it looks like to support each other while not seeing each other. And I believe we're created for connection, right? Like this is great. And I'm grateful for this medium. But it's definitely a supplement, right? It's not like a substitute for being able to give you a big hug, Keith. So just trying to navigate that. I'm from New York, you know that. So a lot of loss of life on that end. That's been hard to navigate from afar. Zoom funerals are not where it's at. And so how do we support one another? And we just, again, use what's in our hand. The church has tried to do its part in delivering food to those on the front line, serving, supporting those in communities that are marginalized and have less resources. And so just trying to say we see you, we value you, even though we can't literally see you and be there physically for you. We can do what we can to support you. And so that's what we've been up to. We're actually doing something like that today for some folks in the community, just to say we love them and appreciate them. And then, of course, with all of what's been going on with, loss of life whether it's the hands of police officers or the hands of civilians, and the trauma and the secondary trauma that brings to all of us, and kind of ripping off a bandage of a centuries-old wound, right? Like, what do you do in that? And so we've talked a lot, particularly at the church, around lament, Keith, and what it means to lament, which is like literally to admit where you are, right? Like, I'm frustrated, I'm angry, I'm at times hopeless, or at least I feel that way, though I'm not really. I always have hope because that's what my faith rests on. But if I'm honest, at times I'm like, where do we go from here? And then secondly, after admitting where we are, we then cry out for enlightenment, because I feel like we need some wisdom beyond ourselves to really to create the kind of change we want to see. And then lastly, as a person of faith, make sure I keep on praising God, because he's definitely still on the throne, even though right now we're not seeing any bit of heaven here on earth, though we all pray that in the Lord's Prayer, right? Let your will on earth as it is in heaven. We ain't seeing that, but just to keep acknowledging that he's still there, he still sees us, he cares, and we keep on moving forward, trying to do the best we can. So, that's the Cliff Notes version, though. That took a few more minutes than you probably would have liked, but that's where I'm at.
I'm strapped in, brother. I'm just listening. I'm in my listening part, right? Then I'm on my learning part, and you know me better than most people, right? I need a lot of learning, right? I'm a little slow, so I need a little bit of patience and a little bit of learning. But I kind of wanted to kind of throw another softball at you, or maybe not. But in Victory Charlottesville's mantra, it's reconciled to one another, right? So in today's world, right? You started this church right after August 17, right? Was that a result of that? I think you froze. I think you froze up.
What's funny is, and funny is the wrong word. That just tends to be what we often say, right? When we don't know what.
Well, New Yorkers say it all the time. That's for sure.
Yeah. What's interesting is in my journal that I don't keep much, but every now and then I'll jot something down. In 2014, I started jotting words down around justice and reconciliation, and church. And I had no plans of ever starting a church. That was not the goal. But I felt pretty strongly we needed to do something toward that end. And about 2015, we started planning. 2016, we ramped up with some meetings here and there, connected with a pastor friend from Northern Virginia at Grace Covenant Church in Chantilly, who agreed to help train us for this task. And then August happened. And so August 11th and 12th of 2017 happened. And so at that point, it jump-started things more quickly, to be quite honest. Things were in the works. We just hadn't planned on launching yet. But it was quite a moment to already have the vision. The vision was already in place before that ever even took place. And so, and in many ways, because I think that event just kind of amplified what was kind of beneath the surface already. And so we were ready to go, if you will, whatever ready means. And so, yeah, we launched officially in January of 2019.
So I'm going to pass you off to Jerry to ask a question. Before I do, be thinking about when you come back to me, I'm going to ask this question. How do we actually reconcile to one another? How do we actually do this? I know how I do it, but when you come back to me, I'd like to talk about that a little bit.
Sure.
How about this question? I got a very real question here. Very real question that I've been struggling with. So, grew up Southern Baptist, raised in the church, very much a God-fearing man myself. The last 60 days, 90 days have been brutal. And there's no question that many folks that have been watching, all of us really, have been challenged in one way or another. Certainly our faith. I mean, Paul, we're staying quarantined in a house with our little boy as opposed to watching our little boy play with other little boys and little girls and having fun. It's brutal. So my question for you is, and maybe there's no right answer to this, is as such folks with such faith, and we're undoubtedly having our faith challenged now, why even be put in this predicament in the first place?
Yeah. You guys are freezing on that end. I hope you can still
I can hear you. We can hear you for sure.
Okay. Yeah, that's a question that is a real one to ask. And I talked about the lament earlier with which the whole book of Psalms, not the whole book of Psalms, but about 40 laments appear in the Psalms, right? Where the psalmist is crying out, God, are you going to forget me forever?
Oh, we lost him here. Judah, we lost him here. I want to get him back on the line here. Good stuff coming from Paul Harris on his connection. How was the connection on your end there, Judah?
Until we lost him, it was fine.
Okay, fantastic. Let's see if we can get him back on. We're going to see if we can get Paul Harris back on. Paul, if you're watching, I'm Skyping you now. He was right in the middle of dropping a fantastic knowledge bomb there. And I'm excited to welcome him back on the program. I'm going to track him down.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on some of the stuff you
saying? So I'm excited to get Paul back. I really want to talk about how do we reconcile to one another, and and how I do it is by action, right? And I go ahead and actually like I said last week and actually today, when I'm walking down the street, I actually picked up 2 coffees from Marie Beth today, and I handed one to a gentleman that looked a little bit differently than me as I was walking down the street and say, hey man, have a nice day. To me, that's simple. I'm built for that. That's easy for me to do. Some people may not be, but at the end of the day, I think we just need to be kind to one another. And when we get Donna on, we're going to talk about us as realtors and what we can do to really help that, because we really are on the front lines in many respects of this subject on it. So I guess we're having issues with Paul. So
do you feel your faith challenged lately?
No, actually, my faith is just ramped up.
Yeah. How so? Put that in perspective.
I guess maybe just because I'm a super positive guy, I see more the glass is half full than the half empty, and we're trying to have a conversation with rock stars, and we're trying to do our part, and I personally see more kindness and love than I do hate. Just walk around, and I mean, maybe it's Pollyannic, maybe it's who I am, but it's a lot of it is my background and what I've seen when I was in the Marine Corps overseas and these different cultures and all this stuff. But my faith is ramped up, not backwards. But
I respect that.
But
the reason I asked him that question is like the last 90 days, and I don't know if anyone else is feeling this. I think the last 90 days, and Judah, we have Paul coming in now. Let's see if we can patch him through. The last 90 days, I've been talking about this with some of my buddies, like in a men's group that we do. We
cool.
all feel more challenged than ever with our faith. And I was curious of what Paul was thinking. Paul, I think we have you on the line here. Judah, give me the... Okay, excellent. Give me the thumbs up, Judah, if we can, to welcome Paul back on the show. We're getting the thumbs up. We got you back on. So the question we have, and I'm going to get out of your way, I feel the faith is a little bit challenged over the last 90 days.
Yeah, Jerry, and you're not alone. I think earlier I referenced lament, right? And I took that from the Psalms where David, Psalms 13 is one, but there are others where he's like, God, where are you? Like, have you forgotten about us? Like, I'm struggling here. I can't even, I want to, life, I want it to end in many ways is what he was saying. Job, similarly, lost all these people in his life, lost all his crops, basically business went south. He was, and this was a righteous guy, right? Like, who was this God that would allow this to happen to the good person? And here we are thousands of years later with a similar cry. And one thing I'm growing, I'll say, to learn, and it's a hard truth because, like you, it's hard to be steadfast in faith sometimes in these moments is, he's never promised us a storm-free life, right? Promised us a storm-proof one. In fact, he says in John 16:33, like, in this world, you are going to have trouble. But what we can take heart in is that he's already overcome the world. And so through it all, we can have his peace. Why he allows things to happen, I think what I'm careful to do, and the psalmist is a good model for this, is not to ask in an accusatory way, but I can ask. The psalmist clearly asked, hey, what's going to help me understand if there's a purpose, I want to see it because this sucks and this hurts. But I try, and it's hard, right, to not posture myself in a way of, just in this accusatory, like, why, God? Who do you think you are? And because I'm not God. And I want to be careful about that tone, but at the same time, gosh, why the heck? Yeah, why are we struggling with all the things, racism and devaluing of black bodies? Like, what is this? We know in Ephesians, he talked about the Jews and the Greeks, very similar racial issues going on, that he says then he destroyed the walls of hostility between the two. And so reading that gives me hope about where we are today. But man, it's hard to be steadfast in it when we continue seeing similar things persist. But yeah, that at the end of the day for me, Jerry, I try to stay in a posture of, you know what, if you never did anything else for me from where I sit faith-wise, what you did however many thousands of years ago that grants me not having to go to hell, I'm good, I'm good, and I'll figure a way out through this with your help. And that's hard to maintain that perspective, and yet that's the perspective I try to embrace every day.
Love that. Can I one more I'm going to ask you.
Sure.
Can you offer a glimpse at all into the raw feelings that you've been experiencing? I mean, the vulnerability, the fear. I mean, you're a leader in the community. You're a God-fearing man. People look up to you in church. People look up to you at the University of Virginia. You're a black male. Okay? Yeah. There's a lot of stuff happening right now in the world. And I got to think from your standpoint, you're seeing it from so many different sides here. Can you give us an insight into the vulnerability and the raw emotion that's been going through you over the last 90 days?
Yeah. Oh gosh. Just exhaustion. Yeah. We're here. We're still here. Progress, absolutely, and yet we're here. And trauma. It's a book I've been reading called "The Body Keeps the Score." The body keeps the score. It has effects, and we see it playing out. And I think it's just exhausting. It's frustrating. It's angering to see the ways in which it persists, and the many layers that need to still be pulled back to see some meaningful change. And that is across multiple systems in society, whether it's education, law, medicine, you name it, housing. You guys talk housing. I mean, redlining is a thing, you know, like all of that. That's exhausting to look at that and to see again, progress, yes, and yet so much more that still needs to be done. So yeah, I think exhaustion probably, I'm still trying to put words to the feelings, but that probably captures it.
Good to see you again. So if
are.
you haven't read this book, Paul, give it a read. It's literally just was talking about what you're talking about, and I was fortunate enough to actually have dinner with the author back in September, and it talks very much so about redlining and how it all came together. And it's a great book. Take an opportunity to read it. It's part of this listen and learn kind of thing. But before we lost you, and then I went on so to me, my faith is growing. My faith is just ramped up, because I choose to see the positive, not the negative. And what we're doing right now is a positive, right? Every time you get up and you open up your mouth and preach or teach, right? It's positiveness coming out. But I want to go back to that question. Okay, how can somebody reconcile to one another? How can the average person, right? You preach this is the foundation by which your church is built on, right? Reconciling with one another. I know how I do it, but I'm just maybe wired a little bit differently. Now be kind and be Christian, right? Be nice. I'm wired a little bit different than most people, but I was just telling you, I was off air. You know, I picked up 2 cups of coffee today at Marie Vet, and as I walked down, you know, there's a bus stop, right? There's some people that look different than me, and I just handed a guy a cup of coffee and say, "Hey man, have a nice day," and turned around and walked. That was it. Didn't need to get into anything. I showed a little bit of love. I showed a little bit of care, and I just kept on going. That's how I do it. But how can somebody who's watching this, how can we do this? How can we reconcile? Give me some, you know, I know there isn't a magic answer, but let's see what that brain can come up with. Well, my list is a little long. Thank you. Sure.
Yeah, sure. Gina?
I'm not hearing.
You're not.
Not from here. Yeah, I'm getting him on the.
Not on the live stream?
No.
Okay.
Paul, I hate to interrupt you, but I think we got a technical.
We do. We're having audio technical.
We're having
it's
an
such
audio.
a bummer here. Paul, you're dropping knowledge bombs, but the connection's a little tough right now, unfortunately. We're going to see if we can get them back. Paul, let's see. We'll talk with the team and get back to you here. Okay, thank you. And Judah, was audio, is that what you were experiencing there?
I'm not hearing him on the stream, and I'm not hearing him through the computer either.
Okay.
I'm not hearing him anywhere.
The connection's a little choppy there on Paul right there.
It's okay.
What are your thoughts on what he was saying?
Yeah, I'm sorry about the technical difficulties, and Paul, and I was really trying to get him to open up with how we can actually reconcile to one another, and maybe what we'll try to do is figure out what this technical difficulty
I think it's on his end.
Yeah, and we'll go ahead and bring Paul back.
Yeah.
and kind of do that. So Paul, I apologize on the technical things. We'll get a little bit better. That's the fun of doing live television.
Oh yeah.
Live webcast, right?
Yeah.
And I'm learning. This is we used to say it in the Marine Corps, right? Everything was perfect plan until the first round went down, and everybody got a little bit confused. But look, to kind of do it, to me, I'm looking at the positive. I mean, look, there's a lot of negativity, a lot of hate out there, and whatever we can do with the little platform that we have here to share a little bit of positivity, that's what we want to do. But this is a big thing. What the Supreme,
tell us about this. I want to know.
Yes, there's a big thing what the Supreme Court has done, and the Supreme Court has now made LGBTQ a protected class. So when Donna comes on, she's going to talk about protected classes with the Fair Housing Act. But the bottom line is, you can't be discriminated in buying a home because you are a member of the LGBTQ community. See, it's against the law. So again, Donna will talk a little bit more about that, but to me, that's a huge step in the right. That's a positive thing, right? And so hopefully, we will get through this, and we will move through it. And anything platform that we can do together with bringing folks like Paul on is what we're going to do.
Why'd you highlight the book? Tell us about The Color of the Law.
Yeah, so I don't want to get too much into it, and because it's rather technical, and Lisa on was it Friday?
Friday. Yeah.
On Friday, really went into it. But basically, what happened is the government literally created redlining. Right? They basically drew red lines around the neighborhood and say, if you look like this is where you go. If you look like this is where you go. Right? And I'm not sure it was intentional. If you read through this, you kind of get the impression that it was, but it happened nonetheless. And so the good news is if you read this book, it's more of a history lesson of how it happened, so it doesn't happen again. So that's basically it. And if you take a look at the cover, it basically pretty much tells you that they grow different areas. Oh, there's Donna.
We have Donna Patton on the line, Judah Wickhauer, and I'd like to go to her to talk about a lot of stuff. Managing broker at Keller Williams Alliance. And Judah, give us the thumbs up when we can welcome Donna on the show, please. I'm excited for this. Donna Patton, you are now live for Charlottesville and Central Virginia. Thank you for joining us on Real Talk. This is an insider's guide to real estate, and we love all you realtors on the program here. If you could introduce yourself to the viewing public, Donna, we need you to turn that camera on. There you go. Introduce yourself to the viewing public.
I'm Donna Patton. As you said, I'm managing broker for Keller Williams Alliance. I'm also very passionate about not only real estate. I've been doing real estate for 24 years. I have a therapy dog. You put his picture up on with my picture, and that's how I advertise. And we mainly work with children with special needs. And so before the whole world shut because of COVID, we would go every week to 2 different schools and work with children with either emotional and behavioral problems, or we had 4 classrooms with children with autism.
That's awesome. How about a glimpse into you in real estate? Why'd you get into the business? What you love about the business? And I'm going to ask you your thoughts on where we're going to go, and then I got to pass you to the distinguished gentleman. So 3-part question. Why'd you get into it? What you love about it? And what you think the rest of this year is going to do?
So I got into it when I was looking for a house. A friend of mine was my realtor at the time. And she said, Donna, you need to get into this. You love all the houses. And I said, it's not really that I love all the houses. It's that I can see opportunity in them. And she said, you really ought to get into this. And so I did. I went through the courses and I started part-time. I was working actually at Martha Jefferson Hospital as a phlebotomist, which is a vampire. I was drawing blood. And so that's how I got into it. Give me the other 2 parts. Sorry, forgot.
How about this? Before I get to the 3rd part, what do you love about it? And I'm going to pass you to Keith.
Oh, I love meeting people. Hey, Keith. I love meeting people. I teach a lot. I enjoy the education part of it. I enjoy volunteering. I am the president-elect for the state for the Residential Real Estate Council. I am on state committees. I am the past president of CAR. I was the president in 2016. So I love being involved.
So that's where we're going to go, because I have attended several of your fair housing classes, and unfortunately we had a little bit of technical difficulty with our first guest, which will bring Paul back. He's a bit of a rock star, but what I want to do is kind of turn you loose, tell the world how we as realtors, hopefully I got that out right.
You didn't.
It's a Yankee thing. I can't help it. You're just going to have to.
Donna's been holding Keith and I accountable because Keith.
Oh, it's not Donna. It's a lot of
Keith
people.
and I have been mispronouncing realtors, and we add a 3rd syllable. Isn't that what we do, Donna? We add another syllable to it, don't we, lady?
You do. You do. So I have to ask you, do you go to a DACA tour?
I knew you were going to say that, Donna. I love that.
don't
That
underst-
was funny, Donna Patton.
I don't understand, Donna. That sounds perfectly fine by me. DACA tour. Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
You know, it's the Brooklyn thing. I swallow R's. It's just really hard for
I
me.
have no excuse. I'm from the South.
You have no excuse.
I have no excuse.
Well, so
You got the Yankee excuse.
so actually, we were talking before you came on. We're gonna do a phonetics spell out, and we're gonna hold it out. And every time we say it, we're gonna try it that way. So actually, I'm gonna ask Mona Daniels, who was on the other day. She made this great adjective chart for me because I guess people are trying to tell me I got to use better words. Who knew?
My favorite word you used today was positiveness.
Positiveness. Is that a word?
No, it's positivity.
Okay.
It's positivity. All right, let's get Donna in the
I'm sorry,
mix here.
Donna.
We
We
gotta
went
get Donna in the
we
mix
went
here.
sideways.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. So anyway, but the role of a realtor, that it was close anyway, of real estate agents in fair housing. Go. I'll shut up. Go.
So we are held accountable in a couple different ways. One is code of ethics. And so we have a code of ethics that we abide by. And not that I'm going to give the whole class because I teach this, but Article 10 says we can't discriminate. And so we have to make sure that we don't discriminate in anything. You know, when I teach people, I tell them, it doesn't matter what subdivisions you like. It doesn't matter what houses you like. It doesn't matter anything of what you like. It's all about what the person likes. And the only thing you should be concerned about is whether they can afford where they want to live. That's the only thing you should be concerned. And so then we also have fair housing laws. And 2 laws were added or will be added as of July 1, 2 classes. So we used to have just race, color, religion, sex, familial status, national origin, handicap or disability, elderliness, which is really sad because that starts at 55. And then this year, sexual orientation and gender identity was added. And so those are the rules we have to live by. And we can't say, oh, well, I don't want to show you that neighborhood. And also we cannot say when people say to us, what is the makeup of a neighborhood? Well, first off, unless you live there and you know everybody in the neighborhood, you don't have a clue. Secondly, it's against fair housing laws for us to tell people that because that is considered steering. We can give them websites where they can look up the information themselves, but it's none of, it's not our thing to be telling people who lives there and where they should live and where they shouldn't live.
So, Judah, can you put slide 3 on if you don't mind, please? So in April, we're a little bit late, NAR started this really great program called Rise Up, right? And Judah's going to pop on this slide here real quick. And I'm going to try to go to, because a lot of folks that have watched the show are not realtors or real estate agents. So I'm John Q. Public. I'm in the car with a real estate agent, right? And I feel like they've crossed the line. What do I do as Mr. Public? How can I file a complaint? What do I do? Okay, we got all these laws, right? And we got these ethics, but how do how does Mr. John Q. Public do that? Paul Harris, right, is in the car with me, and I say something I cross the line. What's his next step?
So the first place they want to go is they want to contact their local association, because the CEO of the local association can help them understand if it was a violation, and if it was a violation, where do they go from there? And the place they go from there is to the real estate board for the state that they live in.
So that's on the ethics side, right? But there's a fair housing law.
No.
That's on both sides.
Mm-mm. Yes, it's on both sides. So if it was an ethics complaint, the local association will hear it. If it's a fair housing complaint, the state real estate board will hear it. Each state has their own complaint process that they go through. They have hearings, and they have a board that hears these things.
So it's very much so. If I do pay attention to your classes, by the way. So it's very much like a legal proceeding. Is that not correct?
It
Okay,
is.
Can you just tell a little bit
is.
how that works so the general public can understand it?
So with an ethics complaint, we are heard by a panel of other realtors. And so, see, I say it correctly. And so we're heard, if we have an ethics complaint, we are heard from them. If it goes to the state, it's still realtors that do it, that hear the complaint, but it's higher up. These are state realtors that volunteer for this. It's the real estate board, and they hear many cases. There are people that actually investigate it, so they will hear from each side. They will get all the information gathered, and then they will decide if something has, if there's been an actual violation or not.
So the Supreme Court just yesterday added to the new fair housing, the LGBTQ. You were talking a little bit about that. We've got a communique from our president at NAR. So that is now part of what we just discussed, right? So if you're right, this is effective immediately. Is this not correct?
Yes, it is. And it blows my mind that it took them so long.
Amen.
Yeah.
Seriously.
It really does. It amazes me that we continue to talk about certain things. 1866 was the Civil Rights Act that dealt with race. 1866, and we're still dealing with it.
Well said, Donna.
So how as real estate professionals, I'm dancing around the word, how do we as real estate professionals help this? How can we be part of the solution? We were talking with Paul, part of the moniker of his church, or the saying of his church, is reconcile the garden to one another, right? So how can we, as real estate professionals, we're 1,400 real estate agents in the region of Charlottesville, in the Charlottesville region. How can these 1,400 people make this better, in your opinion?
So first off, they have to understand the laws. They have to know the laws. Then they have to put their own prejudices aside. And people go, oh, I don't have prejudices. Everybody does. Everybody was raised certain ways. And you have to, when you become a realtor, you have to realize that this is what you do. You have to treat everyone the same. And I would suggest, I've had discussions with other realtors in other areas that are not the same color as I am about what their life is like. What is it like for them, or friends of mine? What is the difference when you buy a house or you go to rent a house? Another thing that is not on the slide that I sent you that is going into effect on July 1 is if someone owns 5 or more rentals, they now cannot discriminate against people who get public assistance, which will really help people get into rentals where before people would say, oh, I won't take a Section 8 housing voucher, which is public assistance. And now if they own more than 5 rentals, they cannot deny that.
Why is the threshold 5?
Because if you own 4 or under, you don't fall under the Virginia Landlord Tenant Act. Don't ask me why. I just know that that's the threshold. You're considered more commercial if you have more than 5 houses, and more Harry homeowner, I rent my houses out if you have under 5.
Is that strictly commercial? Is that strictly residential or apply to commercial as well?
It's only residential. All fair housing laws only go to residential.
So at the end of the day, somebody in Richmond, a group of people, made a decision on a number.
Yeah.
At the end of the day,
That's pretty much what it was.
That's what happened.
It's arbitrary.
Yeah, it's an arbitrary.
But we needed a number.
We needed a number.
It should have, frankly, be lower than 5.
Well, that's my opinion, but
Yeah, you would think it would be
Right,
everyone.
exactly,
Right,
Donna. Donna, let me look at Donna. That's so well said. You would think it would be everybody, right? I mean, why would it just be everybody?
Yeah, why don't why doesn't it all apply to
Right.
everyone?
Well, it also it makes horrible business sense. So a Section 8, you're guaranteed
It's
payment.
guaranteed. Well, the thinking is, and correct me if I'm wrong, the thinking is the stigma, and it's not an accurate stigma, is the stigma is a Section 8 tenant may not take care of the home as well. But the reality is the money's guaranteed, so you're not going to miss a rent payment, and that stigma is not frankly accurate. It's an unfair stigma.
And the first half of that statement clearly violates fair housing.
Exactly. Right. But at the same time, it's happening, though. I mean, we know it's happening.
Yeah, it's happening. Yeah.
Donna, you're killing this. You are very good at this selling. Let me throw this to you here. What do you think of the rest of the 2020? I mean, what are we halfway through? We got 6 months left.
Yeah. I actually think that it's going to be good. I think we haven't had our spring market yet. We've got to have our spring market, and there are still people that have to sell and buy this year. There are people that have to move. Now, they may not have been able to move in the spring, but they still have to move. And so I think that I'm seeing that, I'm hoping that it's going to be a great second half of the year. I watch the numbers since I am a managing broker, and we really didn't slow down a whole lot during the shutdown because luckily our governor said we are essential. Now, we had to do things differently, but we were able to continue to do business as long as we did it safely.
Okay, so everything she's saying is so on point and what we've been covering. How do we solve this conundrum of not having enough inventory to drive volume, to drive sales? Because that's the conundrum we have, right? There's not enough inventory there. How do we solve that?
I don't know. It's very hard. I think price range a lot of times drives that because it's expensive to live. The closer you get to any city, the prices go up. And so right now, people don't want people in their houses, so they may not be wanting to put their house on the market. And then you have others that, they want to see houses, but there's nothing out there. I'm one of those. I have my farm on the market, and I'm looking for something I watch daily, and I'm like, wow, this is really hard.
What do you think, Keith?
Yeah, so like I said, another rock star. We knew we were going to cover a thing. To go back to the market thing, so we have a little, if you have watched the show.
She watches.
We got a little bit of a bet going on. So
Well, ask her what she thinks of our bet and say where she would put her money first.
I'm not going to put Donna
Come
on that spot.
on.
She's totally on me.
Okay, so Donna, here's the bet, Donna. Here's the bet. We're betting, we're comparing Q4 of 2020 to Q2 of 2019. And the distinguished gentleman, Keith Smith, thinks that fourth quarter of this year, we're going to do 85% or more of the sales volume we did during second quarter of 2019. He's basically saying the spring market is at the end of this year, and we're going to do 85% or more of the volume in the final quarter of this year. I'm saying I'm taking 85 or less. 85 is a push.
Well, where I screwed up, I think it's actually the third quarter now.
Well, what does Donna think? What do you think, Donna? What do you think of the bet?
So I'm going to sound kind of like an attorney here. It depends, because that's always an attorney's answer. I think it depends on what happens with this whole COVID stuff. I think if we continue to stay safe and numbers continue to go down, we're going to have a phenomenal second half of the year and continue to move forward. I think it's just going to depend on the public and how comfortable they feel with either putting their house on the market or getting out there and buying.
So the word I wrote down is confidence, right?
Yes.
The sellers have to be confident that it could work. And I will tell you, many, many people that we talk to, and I'm sure you do it yourself, that ask us how's the real estate market. When we tell them it's nuts, right? We need inventory.
Yeah.
They don't understand why. And we're actually going to talk about that in a couple next week about why this isn't 2008, right? And they keep on going back to 2008. And it's not for very real structural reasons, very technical reasons, and we'll talk about that next week a little bit. But I think it boils down to confidence. And,
It does.
and no matter if they are a sophisticated buyer or a sophisticated seller or a first-time buyer or a first-time seller, I don't care what anybody says, buying and selling is an emotional experience. And if your confidence is not there, you're not in the game.
Can I throw this to you guys?
sure.
Throw it to both you and Donna, okay? If it's a confidence issue, I'm a branding and advertising guy. That's how I make my living, okay? If it's a confidence issue, then perhaps CAR or NAR should run an advertising campaign to build consumer confidence by explaining that this is as good a time as ever to list your home. We can create consumer confidence through advertising.
Because that's what we're doing here.
Right, that's what we're doing. Yeah.
Yep.
So we.
Why does the association not do that? Is what I'm wondering.
Well, they are, because I have Donna here.
Okay.
Right? We have right? Donna is very much so involved in it. We have Quentin Beckham on, who's incoming president. In fairness, they are here, maybe in de facto, but and it's not a direct support at all. But we're part of the conversation. I'm on the board, so we're doing our little piece here to go and do that. And NAR is. This is a communication just came out about the LGBTQ. Apologize, I got that in reverse there for a second. So it's confidence. I'm going to pivot a little bit. Maybe a bit of a hardball your way.
Yeah.
How do you feel about open houses?
I wouldn't want one right now if it was my house. I truly believe that open houses, until we know that the numbers are continuing to go down with this virus, unless you stand at the door and you say only 2 people in at a time and you have to not touch anything, and that's hard to do. People want to get out right now. They want to look at stuff. And so if you have an open house and it's a very desirable open house, and you have all these people, how are you going to manage it? So I think virtual open houses are still the safest bet right now, because we really still don't know about this virus.
So I personally think it's going to be a while before we go back to quote unquote. Well, it's for 2 reasons. One is because of what Donna just said. And I think the second reason is we as agents and we as an industry and we as a overall community have gotten so good at virtual open houses. I mean, the one that we created for John Kerber over at Prophet Ridge, right, was, that
we could have put that on HGTV.
We could have put that on
Literally.
HGTV,
Yeah.
I don't know what that is, but that's okay.
You know that TV.
I'm only teasing.
Can I ask Donna Patton this question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Donna Patton, I'm curious of your question. What is your take on the flight from urban environments to suburban environments? Do you think we'll see an influx of folks from big cities coming here? And then the second part of the question, will we see a similar trend going from, say, the city of Charlottesville out into the counties of Central Virginia? Your thoughts on that?
I think you are going to see somewhat of a movement for people wanting to be where they can grow their own food. They have a little bit more distance. I joked with some of my friends, my property's 37 and a half acres. I didn't have to worry about being next to anybody and wearing a mask and everything like that. So I think you are going to see people moving, maybe not really far out of the cities, but I think you're going to see people moving where they can do a little bit more on their own. They may want to have a chicken or 2. I don't see them doing anything as crazy as cows, but they might want to have a little bit more distance. I also think you're going to find people that are going to continue to work from home, because the industries have found that they can work from home. They don't need to spend all this money on different offices. And so I think you're going to find people going, wow, I thought I wanted to downsize. Now I need an office space or 2 where it's quiet and we can actually work from home.
I think she's 100% right. Does that devalue the real estate at all in the urban environment?
No, because you're going to always have people that want to live close to
the
the
action.
city, want to be able to walk places, don't want to have to mow a grass at all. You're going to have the same people that want to stay in, or, you are going to have people that maybe they can't mow grass. So they have to have a place where somebody else can do it for them. And so you're still going to have that. You're still going to have the people that love the city life. My people I travel with when I'm traveling for different conferences, they know I can deal with being in a city for a few days. Then I got to get out of there. I am not a city girl. I was born and raised on a dairy farm. And so, it just doesn't work for me.
So a question, did you hand milk or did you do it with a machine?
My dad, so I'm old enough that my grandfather didn't believe in girls working on the farm.
Wow.
So, yes, they had milkers. And that was in Northern Virginia, believe it or not. And we had 287-acre dairy farm in Northern Virginia.
Wow, good for you guys.
So to
Yeah.
pick up on that moving from urban to rural or suburban, and Donna knows this, CAR just released its 2020 generational report.
Oh.
It's about 160, 70 something pages, lots of charts and colors so I can read it. And simple words, right, Donna? Got simple words.
Not two
Yeah,
syllables.
2 syllables or less.
I'm just a Marine. Give me a break.
Stop.
But the interesting thing is that data is from June 2018 to July 2019.
Okay.
And we're going to talk about this in upcoming shows. But this trend of the millennials, which was 40% of the market in that same time frame, and they call it 2020, but it's really that time frame backwards. And there's some very specific slides that they're, and I can't quote it right now, but huge percentages of these millennials are moving out of the urban environment, looking for the house, white picket fence, 2-car garage.
Isn't that generally what happens when the home buyer matures, starts a family, needs some room for the kids? Isn't that generally what happens?
What happened to my oldest daughter, right? They were living in Astoria, Queens, freaking awesome Greek neighborhood, awesome Greek food.
It's always great to live on the Upper East Side of New York City
That's
when you're
right.
in your 20s until you have a kid, and
That's
then you
it.
have to lug the stroller and the groceries up to the 3rd floor.
Yeah, so now they're out in Norwalk, right? We helped them buy a house, and, it's built to grow for, God willing, more grandkids. But that's what happens. It's kind of normal. But I think if you dig into these numbers,
I can't wait. I love that stuff.
But it was all, I think, a lot of it was about cost, right? I think Donna would agree with at that point in time. It was not COVID-19. So the point I'm trying to make is
It was already happening.
it was happening. It happened in the 19 report, which was 12 months prior to that.
Right.
It's happening in the 20, and this 40% is holding true of millennials.
And COVID has just magnified that trend
Absolutely.
and put more momentum behind it.
Absolutely.
And now, perhaps more than ever before, the millennial buyer and seller, arguably the most valuable customer out there, right?
Yeah, and it's a really interesting report. When we go through it, it'll make sense because it tells you what age group is selling, what's buying, where they're at.
love that stuff.
It just came in. I didn't quite read it all yet.
Donna, are you bullish on Charlottesville, Donna? Are you bullish on this market?
Explain what you
Are
want. Or what you mean by that.
What's your take? What's your view on Charlottesville the next 6 to 12 months? Bullish or bearish, meaning are you positive, market positive, or market negative?
I think I'm positive. I was showing a house yesterday, and I've shown houses throughout this, very, very safe. Got the hand sanitizer, the wipes, and the mask. But yes, I am bullish on it. Another thing too, real quick, before you jump off of here, Keith and Jerry, I think one thing that's helping the drive for people moving out of Charlottesville is the high-speed internet. I live in Troy, Virginia. I have Firefly. I have fiber optic.
So let's
We
talk.
can tell the connection's been steady in
So,
Troy.
so let's talk about that. That's a huge thing,
That's
and
huge.
and as
Yes.
and we, you know what, great idea, Donna. I think I'm going to bring some Firefly people in and try to talk a little bit about that. So what happened is the Central Virginia Electric Co-op, right? I was actually involved in this on the commission I sit on. Took their easements. They created a whole new entity. They took their easements. They went out and raised a substantial amount of capital through the private sector plus the public sector. They've teamed with local jurisdictions, Fulvana, Louisa, and parts of Albemarle, right? And I think Nelson too. And I've forgotten the actual map. But the bottom line is it was this classic, what we call a PPE, private-public joint venture in it. And so in these easements, they're laying fiber. Donna has one
Yep.
gig at your house, right?
Yeah, they aren't laying it. Actually, what they're doing is they're bringing it on the telephone lines. So they're bringing cable and wire around, and so they don't have to dig. They don't have to do anything else. They're doing the easements. If you have overhead lines, they're going with your overhead lines. Now, of course, if it's buried, they go buried.
But thank you for clarifying that, because that's a big distinction, right? Because they have these
It is.
easements and these overhead lines and they're running with it.
How does that impact property values?
I'll let.
That's
yeah.
great. Yeah, I mean, it keeps property values up because now people can do what they want. They can stream, they can live stream, they can work from home, and it's wonderful. I love it because I know that, before when I would get on Zoom calls, it would be, and now I don't have to worry about that, and it makes it really easy to work from home. And they have been great. The thing with Firefly and Central Virginia Electric is they partnered. And unfortunately, that is not happening in some of the other counties that have other electrical companies. They won't allow them to use their poles.
I will actually say it. Dominion will not allow them to use the poles.
I wasn't going to use their
I'm
poles.
okay with it.
It's no surprise that Dominion is screwing
It,
things up and making
it is the
difficult.
dumbest thing
Yeah.
in the world.
Right. We need to shake up that monopoly that Dominion has.
Well, we're actually trying that at the commission. We're
thank
trying.
goodness.
We're trying to get that in there because, look, at some point in time, Dominion's light bulb is going to go on.
I hope to God.
Right, and go, well, hold it. This is a great idea.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
But I don't know about you, but one of the, if not the very first question we get asked when we're going to take somebody out, does it have broadband? Right. That's the
Yes.
first question. So
Our
it's.
common client.
That's exactly right. So it's become as important as electricity.
Amen.
It is. And, the thing is, they talk about making sure that all the children have the same opportunity. Well, if all kids don't have internet speed where they can do their work, then they don't have the same opportunity.
Thank you for bringing that
Well
up,
said.
because I'm going to bring in Dr. Gina Keller back in to talk about this whole how the education system is going to reopen. And if folks remember, she was a superintendent in Fulvana County, but also ran for the state all the superintendents, and she's very uniquely qualified to talk about that. So I think next Friday we might bring her in.
She's
Yeah.
wonderful. She was my son's 4th grade counselor, and my son is 38. So I've known Gina for a long
She's
time.
good lady.
She's
First class
wonderful.
lady.
Yes, she is.
So,
Yeah.
we're getting close to past our time together. Anything else you want to share a little bit? I know we got a little bit off track with the fair housing, but we kind of stayed on it a little bit. Any pearls of wisdom you want to?
Give us a good final word.
There you
give
go.
us a good final word, Donna. Inspire us.
So just remember, the housing market is open to everyone. It doesn't matter what you look like, what your personal preference is, nothing. The housing market is open to everyone.
So I need to bounce off of that for a second. So on the land trust, right, and what we did is we built these 4 houses on Nassau Street, and Greg Slater, my partner in crime, handled the contracts end of it. I did the build side of it, and I didn't get a chance to meet these buyers until the very end, and every single one of them either said, I gave up, right, I just gave up, and frankly, they're multicultural, come from different parts of the world. They said they never thought this would be possible for somebody like me.
Wow.
And so,
Yeah.
you know, we talk about what we can do to help move this conversation forward, stuff like that you can do. Just get out and
Yeah.
get involved.
Donna,
Thank
I
you,
agree.
Donna.
Donna, you're awesome. Seriously,
Thank
you did so
you.
well today. Thank you. You have a good one.
Thank you. You too. Take care.
Donna Patton crushed that interview. 5 stars from Donna Patton right there. I love it. It's coming down to this. We've talked about it for probably 3 weeks ago. You know who brought it up was Christopher Bremen
Oh, yeah.
from Bramante Homes. And he underscored the importance of consumer confidence when he was on this show with Jody Mills.
That's right.
And the importance of consumer confidence seems to be the crossroads where we're at right now in the 2020 real estate market.
Yeah, and you know, how do we help that, right? There's all this what we're doing here, and there's all this negativity, and you know, we're trying to counteract that. And you know, I love your love signs. I mean, that's kind of what we're trying to push along. But you know, there's buyers out there. Yonna and I've got buyers. We can't find them anything to buy. So I think we're going to close out with the summer is a new spring market video at the end of the show. But you know, reach out to Yonna and I, reach out to Donna, reach out to anybody that's on this feed that is a real estate agent. They will help you. They will help you show you that you can have the confidence to go ahead and do this, because there's buyers out there.
I've
Big
seen
time.
firsthand how Keith and Yonna Smith of the Yes Team Realtors have helped buyers and sellers navigate this turbulent market. Keith and Yonna Smith at the Yes Team Realtors, your choice. You have a video that you're excited to show.
I am, but before we come out, we need to reach out to Interstate, because I want to kind of bring them in.
They're watching.
In July to talk about some of the new laws that Donna was referencing to that's going to come out and make it in an approachable way. So we need to reach out to them and see what their schedule looks like.
Rain and Connie Matternick said, still waiting for internet outside of Gordonsville. It's so important.
Yeah.
Stephanie Rhodes, who's watching from Interstate. Guys, I just got off the phone with Firefly. We're waiting patiently.
Yeah.
Maybe not so patiently in Keswick for our service.
Yeah, but it's in the growth area. It's in the growth area. They'll get there. I'm not so sure the Gordonsville is part of the map. You have to look at that. I would encourage you to Google Firefly. They have a super interactive map, and it tells you when things are coming in there. We just sold. We're going to showcase this a little while ago. We just sold a piece of property in Batesville that actually is connected to Firefly, and that made the difference in the sale. You know, they had people coming from Northern Virginia, a doctor, a UVA professor, and they needed that high-speed internet.
How about this one? And you should address this one. Rain and Connie Matternick say, we were going to put our home on the market, but decided not to due to coronavirus. We still are not confident. You guys are maybe changing our minds here. They just left that comment there, husband and wife.
Yeah, so, you know, it's... We talked about this earlier. You know, we need to stop texting. We need to stop emailing, and they need to find a trusted advisor and have a conversation and protect them. Yonna and I are closing tomorrow, I think.
You guys are?
No, I apologize. We just put a house on the market yesterday and sold it in a day, and the woman was 85 years old, I believe, and petrified of having somebody in their house. And we just needed to spend the time to say, look, we're going to protect you. Our job is to protect you. And, you know, we were able to, we got, I think, 14, 15 showings.
You're saying we can do it, and we'll
That's what I'm
understand
saying.
your concern, and we'll manage it. We'll
That's
manage
exactly.
it well. We can do this.
Yeah, and what's important to that particular individual and how they want to do it, we have to tailor
Yeah, you
how.
listen.
Yeah, there you go. What did we say? Listen, learn what's important to them, and how we can address it, and then get it done.
That's why Keith's a good guy for this, guys. Clark Walker says, amen, brother Keith Smith.
Oh, he's a good man.
He is. Cynthia Hash, fabulous agent as well, says third quarter may be our spring market, in my opinion, which you just said. Encourage sellers to go ahead and put their property on the market now, fellas. Trust the realtors to do our job safely. Yes, Donna. Yes, doesn't call. And then Cynthia's giving us a hard time about Docator and seriously, Keith, Realtor. Cynthia Hash, which we love on this program, says third quarter spring market.
Yeah,
That's what you said.
I think
You're trying to pivot our bet.
I am totally trying to pivot
I'm
because
not going to let you do that.
I think I screwed up.
I was surprised you put it in the fourth quarter. Third quarter, maybe I would have done it.
Yeah, well.
Quentin Beckham says, good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning,
He
Quentin.
says, Keith, that's a great book. Becky Davis Elwood would like for you to give the name of the book again, please. She's going to order it on Amazon.
Sure, it's The Color of Law. You can order on Amazon. It's excellent. And if you have trouble, I've got an extra copy. You can borrow it from me anytime.
So there you go. Quentin Beckham says, great show, fellas. Nikki Wooten Chambliss, the internet is a basic utility for all of us thinking about buying a home.
Amen.
A basic utility. You said it, just like the electric.
Yeah, so, it's interesting. And I think what the co-op is trying to do is what was done in the 30s, to electrify the rural areas.
Yeah.
And they're just using these.
They're trying to get growth in the rural areas by creating amenities that are going to attract people to these rural areas.
I got to tell you, it's been almost a 10-year process to navigate this.
Because you live in that neck of that area,
I
right?
do. I live in that neck of the woods. I represent Fulvana County on the Planning District Commission, and my cohort, Tony O'Brien, and I, we've been pushing this, and it's a bit disappointing that everybody can't play nice together and get Dominion on there and get it, because it'd make a huge difference.
Laura Kelly loves watching the program here. Becky said, thank you very much, Keith, for that recommendation on the book. So you're getting people to read books. You're getting building consumer confidence here. Keith Smith, you got the ladies walking around the loop right now.
Hey, ladies.
Look at you, Keith Smith.
I'll watch my language, ladies. I apologize.
How about a final word, my friend? This has been an easy show. We're bummed about the connection with Dr. Paul Harris. He had some valuable things to say. Maybe we get him as this breaks in studio. Donna's connection, absolutely amazing. She dropped knowledge bombs. What are you thinking, Senor?
I'm looking forward to Friday, actually. We're going to give a little shout out. My other brother-in-law is going to come on, who's an associate producer for Viacom. Yeah. We got to up our game.
Does he have fiber?
I think he better.
He better.
He better. Yeah. No, I'm bummed about Paul, but Paul, I'd love to have Paul sit across this table.
He carry the whole show. We sit over there, just listen and have coffee.
Oh, yeah. He's a great man.
You also saw the value today, in this hour. This was a commercial for fiber and
That's
Firefly
exactly right.
Internet, right?
That's exactly right.
Someone in the city,
Hey.
for someone in Troy, and the Troy connection was the strongest. Think about that.
Note to self: call Firefly.
Yeah, Firefly.
For sponsor.
Get him to sponsor.
Give me a
this
sponsor.
show.
Show me some love. Got it. Notes down.
Call Firefly.
Call Firefly.
He wrote it down.
I wrote it down.
He wrote it down. How about a final word, my friend?
Just go out and be kind to one another. Love on one another. Practice these two big signs over for us over that way, and somebody who looks a little bit different than you, just say good morning, have a nice day. Just follow the golden rule. Just be kind to one another. We shall get through this again.
You're good people. His Keith Smith. His beautiful 7/8 is Yonna Smith.
Yep.
Of the Yes Team Realtors.
She's out working, making a living.
She's working, signing contracts.
So we can play and have fun.
Keith and Jerry are talking. I enjoy this show and this gentleman very, very much.
Thank you.
For
Ditto.
Almost 2 years, I've sat next to him and
Hold it. It's 18 months.
It's over 18 months.
Really? Is it really?
It's over 18 months.
Wow.
Over 18 months, built a friendship with this guy, and I know firsthand what he and his wife do for their clients. I've seen it. They go to war and back for their clients.
We do.
He's not going to say stuff like this because he's a humble guy most of the time. In this particular regard, he's humble about it.
Yeah.
But Keith and Yonna, guys, trust me on that.
It's a Catholic in me.
You're humble most of the time.
Most of the
time. He's Keith. I'm Jerry. This is Real Talk. For Judah Wickhauer, Dr. Paul Harris, and Donna Patton, thank you for joining us. Have a good one, guys.